very pleased to have in the studio Peggy Salazar, who is the executive director of the Southeast Environmental Task Force. Are you the executive director or just the director, Peggy?
Executive director.
Okay, just want to make sure I got it right here. And a lifelong resident of Chicago's southeast side, and has been involved in community environment issues for as long as I've known you, and it's been a while.
Right.
And
Probably too long.
Yeah, well, but you know what? I have to tell you, you and people like Tom Shepard introduced me to what was going on the southeast side. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, when you live on the north side, you don't see it.
As I have said many times, this is now my standard phrase, because once you've toured the southeast and you see the remnants of industry from over 100 years ago, you're just kind of stunned that it all exists next to people's homes and the environmental degradation that happens on the southeast side. And it's not a joke, but I often say that people in Palatine have no idea. So you folks in Palatine, and it's not just you, it's the whole north side, you need to take one of those tours. And that's kind of how I got to know the southeast side, because you would do these tours, Peggy Salazar, and take people and say, let's go look at the remnants of industry and what the legacy of that industry has been on the southeast side. Have you done any of those lately?
Well, not with the COVID. I mean, we do have a couple of students. We have a couple of students that come in, and we'll accommodate them in our office, and we kind of just give them an overview of things. But the reason for those tours was more than just the legacy. It was also the current impacts, because people, you know, the fact that no one knows we're there, you know, North Siders don't know the Southeast side. West Siders don't know that. It's because we're almost non-existent. And the reason for that is because there's no investment in our community, where we don't have any beautiful landmarks. We don't have much of anything. And the assets that we do have, which I think, Mike, you're aware of the recent newly preserved areas that were open space.
Right.
We can't fully enjoy them. They're not completed. They're all still in a state of work. You know, they're all trying to be restored. And even if they are,
this was going to happen.
Can't really enjoy them.
For 2014, you know, with Governor Pat Quinn, and they were going to open up Lake Calumet, and there was going to be open areas, and some of that got done.
But the preservation work initially started in 2000, and here we are, and we still, nothing's complete. And so, and there's been so many things we've had to push the envelope for, and it just doesn't make sense to us that we've been ignored. But if you look at it from a city's perspective, it sort of makes sense, because I've been telling people most recently, we are here to accommodate the revitalization of the city of Chicago. So every time they want to renew an area, have an area, revitalize the community, and there's something they don't want that exists there, they have a space to send it to. And we're the recipients of all of that nasty stuff that nobody else wants. So in a way, we are here to accommodate, not to participate, but to accommodate.
Okay, that's an interesting way of putting it. Let's go to go ahead.
I was just going to say that is a very interesting way to phrase it that I don't think most people consider until they look at what's going on.
Yeah,
right.
Somebody who
and I think, I'm sorry, but
no, go ahead.
It became very clear to me when a few years ago we had two different companies vying for vacant property, right? That was pretty much contaminated in some sense, but they were vying for it because they now wanted to put a recycling facility for construction waste. And they talked about all the construction waste and all of that stuff that was going to be coming because of the revitalization of the city of Chicago. So they needed somewhere to put it. So once again, put it in the south, put it on the southeast side. Doesn't matter that it's across the alley from where people live. Doesn't matter that, you know, we're going to see piles of broken concrete and asphalt and things like that. That doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter that it's on our river that is always constantly abused. And so that's when I realized, okay, we're here to accommodate. We're not here to participate.
Wow. Okay, let's go to Gina Ramirez, Midwest Outreach Manager at the Natural Resources Defense Council, or NRDC, also a resident of the Southeast Side, an active member. And this goes back to some of the stuff that Peggy and I have talked about in the past, and I've talked with other people about. You are an active member of the Coalition to Ban Pet Coke, and that for many years was a big issue, piling up pet coke, which is well, I'll let you explain that, Gina.
Yeah, so pet coke was an issue a few years back. I was pregnant during the time, so it really concerned me that there was black dust swirling through the air, and I had a newborn. And so I became involved, and with that fight, so many more issues started coming up that we're still addressing today. Air monitors were put in place to monitor the pet coke, and those air monitors picked up a neurotoxin manganese. And that can cause developmental disabilities in children, and it's been found in high levels in the air and in the soil. And we're still trying to get that remediated here on the Southeast side. There's been manganese found in our Little League field that children play on, and lead and arsenic. So the EPA actually this summer came out and remediated some soil at one of the Little League fields in Heglish. Yeah. And there's a Superfund site. So basically everywhere you turn on the Southeast side, you know, you're just slapped in the face with pollution. And my son is 6 years old now. You know, I'm rooted here. I'm a third generation resident, and I love where I live. And so I'm just, you know, working with Peggy and NRDC day in and out to try to, you know, clean up the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think that, Mike, that's what people don't understand. There are generations here, and for most people today, they probably don't have an idea what it's like to live in a neighborhood where you can go visit your aunt and you can go down the street and see your brother. And I mean, those kinds of community networks don't exist everywhere anymore. So we want to hold on to what we have, but we just want to make it better. We want to improve the quality of life for everybody. And even if I were to move today, I would still be concerned about the people that are left behind.
Yeah, and not only can you go down the block and you visit an aunt, you visit a cousin, you can also go down the block and find a keep out sign because it's too dangerous to go into that area, whatever it is. I mean, that's also part of the legacy of the Southeast side, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Like Gina said, we have Superfund sites, multiple ones, okay? The fact that they had to dig up and remove soil from Little League fields, and you know those are the fields that have been tested. We have other fields that haven't been tested.
Oh, of course, yeah, no.
That.
You can't
and so those are the issues that we contend with. And you know, when the steel mills left here, like I said, my husband worked in the steel mills, so I was crushed when the steel mills left initially because that's what we knew. And then I looked at it from a different perspective and said, hey, wait a minute. That means our neighborhood will possibly get better, right? It's going to become cleaner and shinier. And that didn't happen at all. And the opportunity was there to do the major type of cleanup that could have been done when the properties were still vacant. Instead, they allowed other companies to come in that were contaminating the soil, polluting the air, because their attitude was, well, it's already that way. So what does it matter if we just bring some more of that stuff over there?
And there's a famous photograph, famous to me, maybe famous to you, Peggy, of you. If you Google Peggy Salazar, Southeast Side, Chicago, of you doing this with your hand, and it's coated in
black dust, right?
Black pet coke dust. Okay, people used to be able, inside their home, they'd go like this across the windowsill and come out with black dust. And that's what you were talking about, Gina. So what happened? There was a law passed that they had to contain the pet coke indoors. How has that worked out?
There's no longer open stored piles of pet coke, but it still goes through the neighborhood through barge and rail. So it's kind of a little bit out of sight, out of mind in the neighborhood, but to us environmentalists, we know it's still there. And we know that there's also all of this other legacy pollution that's unaddressed. So that's why we're so vigilant on trying to prevent other industries like General Iron from moving in, because we still haven't completely eliminated everything that's here.
So
Yeah.
this is and by the way, when we at the very start of the show, when all the radio and Facebook stuff were working properly, I was going to tie all this together because we talked about farmers and we talked about food deserts on the west side and toxic donut on the south side. If there was an editorial in the Tribune just the other day on Chicago's southeast side, the peril of living in a toxic donut. And you guys who are down there know this. So, Gina, you brought up the reason you're here. We talked about all of this stuff and all, the legacy of everything, only to say, guess what, folks? It's still happening. It's not just that this stuff happened in the past and you guys fixed it. A lot of it hasn't been fixed. The ground is still contaminated, and the water is still contaminated, and the air is still contaminated, and yet the city of Chicago, in its infinite wisdom, has decided to let industry move from the north side to the south side. All right, and that is the General Iron Industries. Which has been in Lincoln Park, and people complain about it up there, and basically it's a little taste of what you guys get down there. So the people in Lincoln Park,
noxious fumes and noise and everything that comes with it.
Yeah. Yes. So the city of Chicago has made an agreement to allow them to go to the southeast side. Tell us why that's not such a good idea, Gina, although we already know.
Yeah, so it's an auto shredder. It's really noisy. It has the potential to be a major pollution source in our air and in our water. These shredders shouldn't be near homes and schools and public spaces. And this shredder is moving just a few hundred feet away from our park, Rowan Park, and our high school, George Washington High School. And General Iron is a terrible neighbor. They had a fire in 2015. They were shut down in 2016. They were shut down this year because of a fire. They have so many excessive air emissions. So this would be another industry that the southeast side would have to be policing. The burden would fall on the residents' shoulders, just like how it always has been.
But wait, there's more. Okay, and I'm gonna. I need to
wait,
find
Mike.
out.
Wait, Mike. I want to add to that. What people also have to understand is we already have 8 other scrap metal yards. We already have scrap metal piles and piles of rusting scrap metal.
Okay, I need to hold you for a second just to ask Nancy. Are we going to break here? Are we breaking at the usual time?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, we are. So there we go. We'll be back with Peggy Salazar, Gina Ramirez. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Looks like we're kind of back on schedule. Stick around, please.
Oh, yeah, I love clean air and fresh water out on solid ground, right where I can stand. And I say, oh, yeah, give me the flora and the fauna. That's a non-negotiable.
Yeah, that is our friend V.R. Sarti and the Clean Air and Water song. It actually has verses about fracking in there. Hey, I guess Peggy Salazar and Gina Ramirez, you should be grateful they're not trying to frack in the 10th Ward as well. Why don't we just set up a fracking operation?
Don't speak too soon.
and run a pipeline through it as well.
Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. As I mentioned, Gina Ramirez is with us from the NRDC, Peggy Salazar from the Southeast Environmental Task Force. We were just talking about the plan to take General Iron from the north side, move it to the south side. Why? Because the north side doesn't put up with that stuff. And the south side is the dumping ground. And that's the way it's always worked in Chicago. And I guess it continues to work that way. And Peggy, you brought up a point during the break that is remarkable, that it would become the largest scrap iron operation in the city once it moves to the southeast side.
Yes, it would. And so what that means for us, of course, is the amount of pollution. The fact also that the truck traffic will be horrendous. We did an informal truck count, and we, at this point in time, counted 200 trucks going through an intersection in an hour. In any intersection in our neighborhood, 200 trucks plus. This is now We still don't have the warehouses that they're building completed. We still don't have General Iron moving down here. So we can't even envision what the truck traffic is going to be like.
Mhm.
And those were all of our concerns we voiced, that when you concentrate industry in one area, these are the other impacts to the community that it has that nobody cares about or gives consideration to. And so this is why we said concentrating industry, that probably isn't the best idea. We don't like it. It has proven it isn't good for our community. Like I said, nobody knows we exist. Why? It's a community nobody wants to move to. Nobody wants to live here unless you've been here already. And then you tend to stay and fight to make it better.
And the
And-
Skyway just goes over all of it, so you don't even see it.
Yes.
Right.
You don't even
Yeah,
see
that's
it.
a good point, Peggy. It's just, yep, let's just fly by this. So not only that, so we have this General Iron, which is they're making plans to move to
Right.
the southeast side. And now we
Right.
have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers planning to expand a toxic dump on the shoreline of Lake Michigan,
With
Right
rising
about-
waters,
right at the, I'm sorry, what?
with rising lake waters.
That's the point I was going to make. With climate change and rising lake waters, what could possibly go wrong? Gina, can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah, so the Calumet River is completely surrounded by industry, and the result of that is that the Army Corps needs to come in every 20 years and dredge the bottom because there's so much toxic sediment. And so, they came out to our neighborhood, gave these presentations. Our alderman was in an uproar because all of the proposed locations were places where we fought to get them cleaned up. They were places where pet coke was stored. So, and those are really close to people's homes. So the only thing left that the Army Corps feels like that they can do is expand the existing CDF, which is combined disposal facility, which I like to call a fancy term for landfill.
Mhm.
And that is right at the mouth. It's right by Calumet Park Beach. It's right by Lake Michigan. There's concerns that the one that exists there is already leaking. So these are the kinds of horrible options that we have to make, decisions we have to make in the neighborhood. Like,
And it's
where do we put this garbage, here or here? When people on the north side are, deciding which beautiful park or amenity that they're going to
Mhm.
get.
And just to set context, it's like 25 feet tall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna put another dump on top of the old one, 25 feet up and operating for another 20 years. But I saw a piece from Friends of the Parks, Juanita Irizarry, who wrote, "This is land that was supposed to have been turned back over to the community in 1994." And now, why is it that the Army Corps of Engineers still has its paws on this?
Yeah, I feel like living as a Southeast Sider that that all of the land is just deemed for industry. It's not really considered to be, something that the residents can take part in, and that's horrible because our beach is like completely gone at Calumet Park. Like, there's like a little patch of sand, and I grew up going there, so it's just really terrifying that they do want to expand it. But what are our options? Like Peggy was saying, we need to think of new and innovative ways to address this. And if there's still so much concentration of industry, 20 years from now, they're going to have to dredge it again. So
Right.
is our whole neighborhood just going to be filled with like all of these dredgings? We need a solution to like clean up the neighborhood so that we don't even have to think about this in 20 years.
Yes. And that's the point also. We, like Gina said, we weren't really given choices. We really did not want another landfill. We fought so hard against landfills. We didn't want another because the sites were closer to residential areas. They were going to take up more land space. And once it was used for that, it would be locked in for, decades to come. And so this was a compromise that we sort of settled on. Friends of the Parks, though, is really about getting that for the park space. And again, if the current CDF is leaking, then we should be saying, get it out of there. Remove all of that stuff, because then it's a danger no matter what. And
Don't
they're not
add
going
to
to
it.
do that. They're not going to do that, okay? So the question becomes,
you say they're not going to do that. Who has
the Army Corps. The Army Corps is not going to do that. The government's not going to do that because they're all about.
Who has jurisdiction here? Can't the city of Chicago say, no, we're going to put a park here instead? You guys are going to figure out a way to get this out of here.
Well, the city of Chicago could do that, but then they're also going to then inherit a leaking landfill. Think about that.
And
If
no
it's
money
already
to clean it
leaking,
up.
They're going, right. And so the correct solution would be to remove the entire thing, admit that should have never been there to begin with, and let's do it right. But they're not going to do that either. So it's sort of a Band-Aid approach no matter which way we go. And the idea of landfilling it somewhere else is basically putting it in somebody else's backyard in some cases.
I think put it on a barge, take it up to Lake Forest. What's the problem?
Money.
Sorry. I mean, no,
No, I'm just saying we don't like to do that. Personally, we don't like to see it go in someone else's backyard. And that's why I said, what is
you
the
need
best
a different solution, but it's going to have to go somewhere. It's like nuclear waste. Okay. Where do you put it? Nobody wants nuclear waste.
Nobody wants it. Well, that's why we have to stop these industries from polluting our lake to start with.
Yes.
And that's where Friends of the Parks and Open Land should be helping us. They should be helping us to keep things like General Iron off the river to begin with, because it's only adding to the situation. It's going to be dredged and dredged and dredged. And if they allow this pollution to keep running in, including legacy pollution that's on private property that people own, it's vacant property, it's not being, the actual contaminants that are there are not being addressed. They're not being forced to address them. So the runoff will carry it into the river. This is crazy. This should be unacceptable. So we care about our river, and that's why we're trying to keep things like General Iron and other nasty businesses from moving in. Just because there's vacant space doesn't mean it has to be occupied by that type of industry.
I absolutely agree. But as you say, it's complicated, but it sounds like we're not getting serious about coming up with real solutions about it. As you say, it's a Band-Aid approach. And hey, the Army Corps has got guys, and we got trucks, and we got machinery, and we can
Kick it down the road.
and just pile it, and we'll get back to you in 20 years about this. But what about the idea, though, that it's land that should have been turned back over to the city? You're just saying the city doesn't have the capability to deal with it anymore. So they're sort of backing off and saying, oh, okay, do what you got to do. It sounds like it to me. So what about?
Well, I think the Army Corps tried to address our concerns. Like I said, we were adamant about not another landfill. We did not want a brand new landfill in our community. And so that was their solution to that. I mean, and I'm surprised they even listened to us. Let's be honest. But again, they're concerned about the park space. I don't know. Is it a good idea to put park space on a contaminated site? That's another discussion in itself. But I'm just saying we don't want another landfill at all. We fought it. I mean, those are turning points when you make those kinds of decisions and you hold your ground. Because we could have easily said, okay, just go put it on another industrial site. What do we care? Out of sight, out of mind. We weren't going to accept that. It was not acceptable to us.
All right, getting back to General Iron, we've got 2 minutes left. How do you, Gina, keep them out of the southeast side?
The ball is in the mayor's court, so we're applying the public pressure, trying to gain as much political power as we can to deny RMGs, the company that they're expanding with, their permits. They still haven't applied for their permits. So we need everyone on board to let Lori Lightfoot know to not continue the concentration of industry on the southeast side.
No, you're
That's
fine. You're fine. You're
put
fine.
very succinctly.
You know, Mike, like we say, if this stuff has to exist and we know recycling, we're not against recycling. But then we should all, like we say, why should only certain people bear the burden, right? We should all take a share. Leave it up north, let them institute all the pollution controls they can, but leave it where it is. Don't bring it to us.
That's a good way to end this. Thank you, Peggy Salazar from the Southeast Environmental Task Force. Thank you, Gina Ramirez from the NRDC. I imagine if folks want to get involved, they can go to either organization and see what they can do to help, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that information is on my
we need to
website.
put pressure on the mayor.
I'm going to put some pressure on the mayor if I can. I had a speech all prepared, but I don't have time right now. Thank you so much for being on the show.